everyone. Good morning. It is a new day, new week. I am excited to be here once again live with Coffee and Collaborations, the Ultimate Fan podcast. I am your host, Kimberly Winborn of Kimberly Winborn LLC. I'm, like I said, excited to be here. I have an amazing guest who I'm going to bring on shortly. Let me share a little bit about him. And while you're coming in, let us know how you're doing this morning. That would be absolutely awesome. I want to see how you're doing this Monday morning. We just came off of the Juneteenth first official holiday weekend. I know a lot of people were out celebrating and doing things with family and friends, lots of community events. And we also today get to celebrate our guest's birthday. So when he comes on, everybody who's on, let's say a happy birthday in the comments, and we'll do that throughout the show. All right, so Jason has worked in health and human services field for more than 15 years in child welfare, behavioral health, domestic violence, and homeless services. So you guys already know I love him because of the fact that we align in that service area. We plan to do some things together. We'll talk about that. Well, I've been trying, but COVID kind of wiped out a whole bunch of stuff for everybody. And so we'll get back to some of the things that he does because he's a credential as a certified family-centered trauma coach. And we're going to talk a bit about some exciting news that he can share with us, something that just happened recently. If you followed the post sharing and the post, the YouTube and all of that, sharing exactly what we were going to be talking about, you know for sure that he is a new movie director, producer. It was exciting to attend. He's qualified professional motivational life coach as well, individual and family, and a certified family welfare, and currently holds a Bachelor of Science degree in sociology and Master of Science degree in counseling. So I wanted to get him on in May, but June, we still got work to do, right? Mental health and all of that is significant all the time. So I want to bring on Jason now.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
So you, in your own words. So first of all, happy birthday.
Thank
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Let me stop.
Let me find out you can sing. Okay.
I play around.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so happy birthday. This is the big one, right?
Yes, 40 and I was able to be here in my hometown, South Carolina, and brought it in with my parents. So that, to me, that was the best, to be able to celebrate with my parents this morning.
Absolutely. I love that. South Carolina. So yeah, tell us a little bit about, your upbringing, where you're from and all of that good stuff.
Got it.
South Carolina. Okay.
So I was born in a big city of Sumter, South Carolina, but in a little small area of Sumter. Grew up with it's 7 siblings, but it's actually my mom and dad only had 3 kids, but they raised my first cousins, and so you know how we are in our family. Those are your siblings, and so grew up in a really big family. I'm the baby. I am spoiled. I finally accepted that. Education was really important in my family. My dad worked at a plant, and he would always tell us that he does not want us to work at a plant, but he wants us to own the plant. And so he always instilled that inside of all us, and everyone that was raised in a household all have bachelor's degree, college degrees or higher, what have you. And so, but the upbringing was education, hard work, discipline, but yet we were also able to be kids and really enjoy life.
That's good.
And so just a really great childhood. That's the only way I can describe it.
Yeah, I love that. We were joking before the show about being in the country and, all that stuff. But it is something to those experiences. And I think it makes for a great, well-rounded person, all of those experiences. And so I want to dive right into conversation with you because I know that you are a wealth of knowledge and information and motivation, which this is Monday, so it's a great day to to get the seat with Jason T. Mahoney, motivational speaker, right? But I want to share, I want to start off with, I mean, the most exciting thing I just experienced in your world, which I'll share pictures later. I wanted to wait till the show so that after the show I could be like, bam, and share all of the pictures from the premiere. Good morning, Cornelius. Good morning. But this past Friday, you all, we were over at Alamo Draft House movie theater in Raleigh, North Carolina. For those who are in Raleigh, you may be familiar with the New Bern Avenue area. So we were over there celebrating, I'm talking about red carpet and all, the premiere of this man's movie, which is based on a book. So it's called Tried in the Fire. So share with us a little bit about the book, how you got to making that book into a movie. I'm going to have a few more questions along the way because I don't want to bombard you at once. But yeah, please share.
Gotcha. So Tried in the Fire is actually a book that focuses on trauma and helping people to understand trauma. And the thing about the book is you meet 6 people and you read their trauma narrative, and then it's also filled with some poems or what have you. But it takes a young man on a journey towards just really going through his own fire and then working with these individuals to realize that, okay, I need to do what I need to do. And he uses poetry as a way to process the things that have been downloaded to him from the clients he's worked with. And so I wrote the book for about maybe 5 years ago or more. And so what happened was in the midst of COVID-19, I was on the phone on FaceTime with one of my good friends, and she and I were just talking. We were on FaceTime Messenger, and it was late at night, and we were just talking, and she's a professional actress, and we were just talking, we were just cutting it up, and but it was pretty much more so we had an intimate conversation about life. About how we're in a pandemic and people are dying, and that you just have to make the decision to live and not worry about things. And she was like, you know what, we need to do something. You need to do something with one of your books or something. I was like, do what? I was like, okay. I was like, nobody's gonna come. I was like, so then I was doubting myself, right? Like, who's gonna come? And she was like, listen, if you do this, I will support you in any way. I said, okay, cool. So I prayed about it, thought about it. I was like, I'm just going to turn this into a movie. And so I reached out to a couple of people and so kind of processed, and it was like, sure. And so it was interesting how the characters kind of came about. We connected or what have you. And that's kind of how the book came about. I got to give Harriet Burnett a shout out because it's because of her planting that seed that you were able to see what you saw on Friday.
And she was one of the actors in the movie. She was the second to the last character, I think, right?
She was Miss Clarice Jones, the mother who was just burnt out and just tired about life.
Yeah. And one of the things that I love is that you covered a story that so many people can relate to in one way or another. However, you also, for me, like I think all of us have been around traumatic situations, heard horrible stories, different things like that. But even to be enlightened, so a couple of those stories were enlightening. Like I had never processed trauma in that particular way. Wow. And so I thought that was really powerful. Like, I'm trying to remember which one it was. I think it was the young guy who ended up being on drugs. I had just never processed like the transition. I think that's what it was, the elevation to go from here to here and really walk through the steps. I really did love that. Yeah. It was eye-opening. Now I was there. I want to tell you, I was there. I had posted in my stories. Marcel and I took a picture. Marcel is he's been on the show. He's part of the music in the movie, you guys. So you got to make sure to check him out. But and people started saying, where are you? Where are you? And so how can people get a tour date or another date where there will be another movie premiere or movie playing?
So what we're doing on the premiere in Raleigh was the premiere, and so we're gonna do it again. We're not gonna do it to that extent, but
Okay.
what we're gonna do what I call a controlled release, because
Okay.
the content is so heavy that we want to always make sure that when we are watching it, that you have the opportunity to have commentary, resources, or what have you, because it's not just a movie you want to get up in the morning and say, I want to go watch this movie, because it's some really really heavy stuff. So we
Yeah.
do have some tour dates coming. But the thing is, we want to be intentional about releasing it. And we want to
Okay.
be intentional about people watching it, because again, it's not just a movie. It's about healing. It's about helping people see and
Yeah.
understand their own trauma. And so we're going to do it. I've gotten a lot of requests to do it again in Raleigh. And then also we're going to do a release in South Carolina, and then we're also going to do a release in Atlanta, Georgia. And so those dates will be coming up. So be on the lookout for those. But it's really going to, in each city and each area that we go to, it's going to give a different experience. But again,
Mhm.
it's that control release, so we can make sure that people have support while they're watching the movie. Thanks, Cornelius.
Yeah, wanted to leave that up there. Yes, you all anybody joins or catches the replay, it's Jason's 40th birthday. So first of all, thank you for spending the first part of your day with us, and agreeing to that, because a lot of people will be like, no, I'm sleeping in or what have you. And so Cornelia says it's all up here, all uphill from here. Awesome.
Absolutely.
So we'll be looking forward to, like, the tour dates and any other things that are going to happen, because I'm going to be sharing it. It was such a great movie. It felt so like, it was a premiere.
Mhm.
You had the red carpet, the photographer out front, videographer going up and down. The location was magnificent. The
Mhm.
Alamo is not some little hole in the wall
Right.
place. It was it was really nice. And so kudos, congratulations to you. And
Thank
you
you.
said that was based on a book of poetry.
Well, it's actually the book. The way it's written is, you have
Uh-huh.
a young man, and he's working on his clinical degree. And
Right.
what happens is, he meets six clients. He has to interview these six clients, and he had to do a case note for each client. But instead of
Okay.
case notes, he actually did poetry. And the reason he did
Oh,
poetry
okay.
was
I got
because that kind of like relieved his stress. So most when you do your clinical case notes, you're writing documentation about what's going on, those things. But instead, he'd use poetry
it.
to
Yeah.
actually service his clinical notes. And then also in the book, it has resources as well. So you meet these people,
Good.
you process some of your own trauma, you get some nice poetry, then you get resources, and then you have opportunity to journal as well.
Awesome. So where can we get the book? I want to make sure to
Gotcha.
put that in the comments. Okay. So where can we find this book?
So the book is actually on Amazon. We have the Kindle version as well as the traditional version, and also on Amazon.com. And you can just search for Jason T. Mahoney, Tried in the Fire, or just Google Tried in the Fire in Amazon, and it'll be able to pop up for you. It's a red and black cover.
Awesome. So I'm putting that in the comments or in the banner so that people can see it, and we'll have that to share shortly. All right. So buy the book on Amazon.com under Jason T. Mahoney, Tried in the Fire. It was absolutely amazing. Now, I want to go into talking about trauma, because I
Mm-hmm.
know you're a trauma expert. I think people have an understanding of what that is, but can you share with us, because I did see that it was defined in the movie as
Mm-hmm.
well. Can you share with us what is trauma, and
Gotcha.
there are different levels to trauma,
Mm-hmm.
different types of trauma, that
Mm-hmm.
was so eye-opening for me at the movie premiere. So being an expert, please help us there.
Absolutely, and I'll keep it really, really, really at that baseline. And trauma is really defined as a situation that can be deeply distressing, that could really impact a person's mental thinking, their physical body. So any experience that a person has endured that has that impact. And so there are different types of trauma. You have historical trauma, you have religious trauma, you have the generational trauma, and so there's so many different types. And what happens is, you look at a natural disaster is traumatic, right?
Uh-huh.
Someone being in a robbery is traumatic. Someone, even to the extent, and this is kind of when I do a trauma workshop, this is how I actually open it up to describe trauma. So I give somebody like a little nugget here, right?
Okay.
So Kim, do you eat fried chicken?
I don't.
Okay, have you eaten fried chicken
I
before?
have.
Have you cooked fried chicken before?
I have.
Okay, cool deal. Remember that very first time when you cooked fried chicken, well, when you fried the chicken, and when you dropped it in there, but you didn't drop it in right, what happened?
It splashed up on me.
Exactly. It kind
Like a
of
little
popped you,
pop.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And you kind of felt some pain.
Mm-hmm.
And so the next time when you went and fried chicken, what happened to you in your mind here? When you dropped the chicken this time, you may have dropped it and ran off. Or
Uh-huh.
you may have gotten, a long fork or something and dropped it there because you didn't want that feeling of the
Mm-hmm.
grease to pop back on you. And so that's really what trauma is. It's that experience, frying chicken, the grease pops on you, that it hurt, it burned. So that was a traumatic situation for me. So then now when I place in that situation again, I'll be able to respond. But the difference is you have the tools and techniques. Frying chicken is a little simple thing, but you have the tools and techniques to say, okay, I'm placing the situation again. This is how I'm going to respond. But there are some situations
Yeah.
where people are placed in that is so traumatic that they're not able to process. But frying chicken, I'm able to process, come back, drop a little bit different. And so let's say if someone is in a chronic domestic violence relationship and it's ongoing abuse or what have you, and when that person finally gets out their relationship, they still have all that baggage and everything. Then when they try to get with somebody else and they haven't healed that trauma, dealt with that trauma, they're going to come into that new relationship with all that baggage and stuff. And then
Yeah.
the person may be treating them so right. But one thing, if that person does one similarity like the last person, and that person is not intentionally doing it, that would re-traumatize or trigger some things because it was unaddressed from the start. So
Yeah.
trauma is really so impactful. And a lot of people have challenges with trauma because they'll say, well, we've always been through those things. Well, you know what? Let's put a name to it and let's
Yeah.
address it.
Yeah. And it is, I'm glad you said that. It's like a desensitized sort of
Mm-hmm,
response. Like, so if
mm-hmm,
somebody, I think about somebody who lost a child, for instance,
mm-hmm,
and people are expecting some sort of a healing situation, like, oh, you still sad, you still this, you still that, and they have
mm-hmm,
an expectation of
mm-hmm,
others because we are a little bit desensitized, because it's
mm-hmm.
like so many things happen in our lives. Can you just get over that and move on? And I wonder, and I guess this is a question for you: do people really know how to deal with trauma or with other people's trauma?
So I think it's really important for individuals to get connected to professional help. Get
Mhm.
connected to a therapist, get connected to a counselor, a psychiatrist, or what have you, to help you process that. And I always tell people, your friends are not your counselors. Your
Right.
your friends are your friends, and you should not put that weight on your friends to do that. But I will say, if your friend comes to you with a situation, work with your friend, help your friend to get connected to services. Don't just say, I'm not your counselor, I can't help you. No, walk with that for your friend through that situation because they trusted you enough to come to tell you their story. And if you think about one of the characters in the movie, the young guy that he had this great life, but when he would try to talk to his friends, they would blow him off, and then next thing you know, he finds himself in a situation. And so that's the same thing. Your friends are not your counselors, but your friends can be a support system to help you get connected to what you need to get connected to. So I always tell people, when you're dealing with some concerns or what have you, just go talk to a therapist. It's okay. It's natural.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that, because then that makes me think about mentorship. So
Mm-hmm,
friendship, and let's go to the next level, mentorship,
mm-hmm,
and our
mm-hmm,
pastors or our coaches who are, we're giving our all to. We're
mm-hmm.
spending time with them. Maybe we got a business or just whatever. We're sharing
Right.
a lot with them, with our mentors and coaches. And then with our
Mm-hmm,
pastors, we're praying, we're, having them to lead us as shepherds. Tell us the professional response to someone who says, well, I told my pastor, I told my mentor and coach. When it comes to, you talked about seeking professional help, but when it
mm-hmm.
comes to trauma and needing to find that resource of an expert in that field,
Gotcha.
can you share, like, why would you not go to a pastor or a coach or mentor and go to a trauma specialist?
Gotcha. So I'm gonna try to answer that really, really short because you hit some pins that maybe trigger some things off in here. So
Yeah.
a couple things. Number one is that if you're someone's friend, you should be open to listening to that person, supporting that person, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And So a response, if your friend is coming to you with some traumatic event and some heavy stuff, just listen and be quiet. Be that soft place for them to land.
Yeah.
And then work with them and encourage them to, let's get professional help. I will go with you to your first appointment because your friend trusts you to tell you their story. So listen and be quiet and listen non-judgmentally, and really be that soft place because your friend is trusting you. Okay. So the
Mm-hmm.
next level, if you are a mentor, now if you're a part of a professional mentor organization, let me put, because you have two types of mentors where
Mm-hmm.
I can be someone's mentor and I'm not a part of a professional organization. But the same sense as that friend, create that soft place, allow the person to process and connect. Now, if you're a mentor and you're connected to a organization, I'm going to challenge that organization to become trauma informed. I think that there should not be any organization in today's society that is in existence that is not trauma informed, because of everything that we have going on. The organization should be trauma informed. So that mentor organization need to be trauma informed, because what will happen is they'll be able to create that atmosphere where the person can come and be able to receive the mentorship plus those connection and resources. Now, to the pastors and churches, your church needs to become trauma informed, because what happens is you now come to the church and you talk to your pastor. Pastor, stay in your role as a pastor and get your parishioner connected to the services. I often say, on Sunday mornings or what have you, we hoop, we holler, we speak in tongues, we run around church, we worship, we give our all. And then we have the benediction. After the benediction, you're going back home to that traumatic event.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important for churches to become trauma informed so that they will be able to address and provide those resources and supports. Because guess what? Every person in the U.S. right now has been impacted by COVID-19. That has been traumatic. Okay. The gas situation, that's been traumatic. And imagine if you're driving down the road doing a gas situation and you just came out of the pandemic, you just lost someone or what have you, you lost a job or whatever, and you're driving down the road and we're in the gas crises and you cannot find gas. So you're driving around in circles. That's traumatic for someone.
So it's like different levels to a certain degree of, like, there's all trauma can instantly happen from several different scenarios. So, but then there are the big, I hate to say big and little, but there are the parameters to trauma. What I'm noticing is that through this pandemic, I've been talking to a lot more people who have been diagnosed with things that are as a result of trauma. And I was speaking with someone about this. So for instance, ADD, or just different mental health issues or mental diagnoses as a result of various traumas that I think were re-triggered or triggered as a result of COVID. And I don't know, the isolation, all the different things, even the fear that, we or losses and all of that. And so what is something that you have, good morning, Lisa, what is something that you have experienced through COVID, where you've had to pivot, or some of the people that you've been working with in order to get through this new sort of a season? Back to your point.
Right. So for me, I always tell people I'm an extra. I'm an introvert and an extrovert, what have you.
Yeah.
And so for me, like, I do love my alone time where I re-energize and those type of things, but then I also love the social aspect of life, right?
Yeah.
So I love the social aspect of life, of going out, meeting people, just having a good time and socializing with people, right? But then I do like my alone time. And I think for me, being locked in the house or what have you, and focusing on things, I was okay with that because it allowed some things to, grow and all that. So I was okay with that. But I did miss the social aspect of going to an event, going to a concert, those type of things. So I missed that. So what I was able to do is I had to literally take a step back, process, regroup, and say, okay, here's how we're going to attack this situation. And that takes me to that next thing when you talked about the individuals may have other diagnoses and those kind of things. It is so important to understand that everyone processes trauma differently. And so when you talk about big trauma, little trauma, I
Mm-hmm.
always say it's just trauma, but everybody processes it different based on who they are.
Yeah.
And so you have some people who are able to, who are very resilient. They've been
Mm-hmm.
through a situation, they process and they bounce back just like that. But then you have someone who may have maybe some underlying other concerns, it may be physical, mental, what, or even family history things, and they go through a traumatic event and they automatically go down, and it takes a long time for them to come up
Yeah.
because of some underlying conditions. And if you all think about it as a health condition, when prime example, COVID-19 hit, they said individuals with an underlying health condition are at greater risk, right?
Yeah.
One
Mm-hmm.
concept. People that experience trauma and have underlying other conditions are at greater risk to have challenges in being resilient to bounce back. So,
Yeah.
so we
That's
can really
good.
start using if we can start normalizing trauma, just how we normalize a person has a medical condition and say this is normal. Now let's deal with it. But unfortunately, we think that I went through a hurricane, I went through a tornado, I went through all of this. All right, so now you still living, so get up and move. No, that person needs to process that situation they went through.
Yeah, that's good. A couple happy birthdays,
Thank
Andrea.
you,
It
Miss
could be
Andrea.
Andrea. Okay, McCullough, and then
Hey, Stace.
Stacey Haywood. Happy birthday, Jason.
Thank
But
you.
what you just said, and I think that's what we naturally do as far as compartmentalize. So
Mhm,
we tend to kind of, and I know I do it. I think everybody does it. We tend to kind of like weigh in, like, okay, this
mhm,
is over here and this is here. And I like how you say, okay, it's all trauma. It's just sometimes it's underlining and other things trigger the
mhm,
the output or the
mhm,
responses or what have you. And I think, when it comes to, let me talk about relationships for just a second and walking into new relationships. So Lisa says learning how to leverage both, be willing to
mhm,
understand and deal and not afraid to seek help. And then she was
mhm,
agreeing with you. But one of the things that in relationships I think happens is, or I want to ask you about, instead of sharing my opinions. But anyway, is that we do have different conditions.
mhm,
So if you've been popped by the grease, do you want to
mhm,
be popped again? And I
mhm,
wonder today if so many people are deciding, especially women, to be alone, like, oh, I'm independent, I don't want a man, blah, 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 because they truly feel that way, or because the grease was too hot, like the grease burned them too deeply. Not just women, men too. But you laughing. Let's speak to that for a minute, Mr.
I'm
Jason.
I'm laughing because that's one of those questions, and it's one of those things where who okay, so let me kind of peel back that, and so I won't sound opinionated. Okay, so
Okay.
let me really peel that back. Okay, so people um have been in relationships and they were unhealthy, right? And so depending on what has happened in that relationship, and then let's say that person leaves the relationship, they go to the therapy and they get it back, they get their mojo back, right? So they're good.
Yep.
And then now they go back into the relationship, and then bam, what else happens again? They continue to find themselves in this cycle, right? And there's so everyone has an opinion about that these type of scenarios, right?
Mhm.
And so what now happens is some people say, well, you just need to get, and again, everybody wants to start giving their opinions on what the person's making a decision. But it is so important that individuals understand that what they went through with that person may have been a traumatic event.
Mhm.
And when you want to enter into something else, make sure and be able to comprehend what happened in that previous relationship, so that when you go into that new relationship, then you say, okay, here are my expectations. Let's lay them out, because I'm not going to deal with what I dealt with before, right? So
Right.
just like frying the chicken. The first time I got burnt by that grease real bad.
Yeah.
But I love fried chicken. I do. I'm a huge fan of fried chicken. Everybody knows me, know I love fried chicken. But when I cook the chicken this time, I'm going
Hey.
to fry the chicken a little bit differently. a little bit more careful, and I have some expectations now about this chicken. And then even with the expectations, I say, you know what, let me turn this temperature down just a little bit because I need to be careful. And what happens is your relationship is impacted by trauma. And not even just talk about like, you know, dating relationship, but even friendships, coworker, all those relationships, your family is impacted by some traumatic event. So you have to know that when I come back and I'm about to step into something else, I'm coming into it with a different mindset. That's where you dealt with the trauma. But again, Kim, unfortunately, we don't see things as trauma. And then we feel, oh, I can bounce back. Like you say, oh, I'm independent, I'm this, I'm that. But outside of all that stuff, relationships, accept the fact that we went through a traumatic event. Let's process it. Let's engage in services, and let's try to heal from it. And when you talk about relationships and family, I do want to always throw this in. Everybody has that cousin that goes from 0 to 100, right? Think about it. Do you have a cousin that, you know, they at the cookout, they having a good time, everybody having a good time, and next thing you know, bam.
Yes.
You know, 100, right?
Immediately came to mind.
Right. Changed the whole cookout atmosphere. Yes. And so what happens is I tell people all the time, don't ask that person what's wrong with them. Ask what happened to them. Because something happened or something's going on where a person goes from 0 to 100 just like that. And so that's what it talks about affecting your relationship. So when you get into relationships and friendships with people and they're doing some behaviors, they're not doing the behaviors just because, you know, of how they're feeling towards you. It's something going on with that person on the inside. I tell people, when you treat people a certain kind of way, what's going on with you? And I tell the other people, do not own the way they're responding, because that's their behavior. And then you gotta be willing to let that go.
Yeah. I love that you said that, because happy birthday, Jason, from Carrie Lynn Miles.
Thank you, Carrie.
Love that you said that, because we can't control anybody else but ourselves. And one of the things is funny, because I'm not a reactive person personally. I tend to process, right? I'm a person that I think about, okay, how is this going to be later if I don't process this now? You know, like, how is it going to hit me in the, I'd rather not have to go back and apologize too much, right? And so, but for some people, because, and this is how trauma is normalized, and anger and responses are normalized. I think, like, if you don't respond, people don't think you care. So if I don't blow up, because we've been so used to people blowing up and all of that, reacting, but I don't. I've always been this way, very just laid back. And people have been upset with me and said that I'm nonchalant because I don't care, rather, because I don't respond. But all I know to do is handle Kimberly. Like, I can't handle anybody else. So I love that you said that. Now we just all have to do our inside work. Now, you talked about the person at the family reunion or at the family gatherings. Everybody's having a great time, and then that person just blows up. And I was just thinking about processes and mental health, because let's backtrack just a little bit when we were talking about relationships, and everything is a process, right? So even when you learned about the chicken grease experience, or even when you experienced the chicken grease the first time, and then the next time you did it a little bit different, so forth and so on. I believe that's such a powerful example, that chicken grease, Jason, because it's a process to, once you learn what you need to do different. Maybe the first time you didn't pat down the chicken enough, and it was a little bit of excessive water, or, you know, all the different things. Maybe the flour, maybe the grease was not was too hot, or you know, all the different things that we've learned about. Maybe we put too much in there, or, you know, had a little water on our hands. Just different things that we've learned. And so let's speak to the process of not just trauma overall, but just mental health in general. Like, can we speak to the process a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think with mental health, unfortunately, we still are in a society whereas we don't address mental health or follow with it. And so I think, so, you know, we often say your physical health, and we've been taught for so long about physical health that, you know, and again, it takes a while. It's a pendulum. It takes a while for us to start addressing some physical health stuff, right? So now mental health shows up on the scene, And then now you have so many different things. You'll say, okay, the person is, and I don't like, I'm gonna say this, but I don't like to use this word. I don't like to use the word crazy because we need to get that out of our vocabulary.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm a faith-based person, and when God created all of us, He didn't create us with dysfunctions. Okay, He created us in His image. All of us, everybody,
Amen.
right? Everybody. And so He didn't create us crazy, right? So remove that word of our vocabulary. But again, mental health, it needs to be, again, up there with our physical health as well. Just like how we tell people, go to your annual physical, go do an annual mental health checkup. Begin to make mental health as a living and breathing part. And again, if you don't want to talk to a therapist or what have you, but at least talk to a counselor, go to resource fair, but get something to address your mental health, because if you don't address your mental health, your physical health is going to be messed up. Mm-hmm. If you don't address your physical health, your mental health is going to be messed up, because we are in this whole body is all connected, right? And so if you think about it like a car, your mental health and who you are is like a car, right? So up here is your brain. This is your mental, everything that kind of controls everything. And so that's the engine in your car. Without the engine, your car is not going to run. It's just going to be there. It's going to be nice and pretty, but it's not going to be there. Same thing when you don't address our mental health. It may be, physical may be looking good, all those things, but then if this is not addressed, we got some issues. So again, physical health and mental health, they walk hand in hand. And until we all begin to make it normal for us to talk about mental health and stop using the ignorant words of crazy and fool and I don't know what's wrong with her, I don't know take that out of your vocabulary. We need to switch our vocabulary to actually being more positive self-talk, more encouraging, more uplifting, because people are going through things every single day. The suicide rate is at an all-time high, especially among Black men. And so we need to address these things. But I'm going to say this, Kim, until we as a society create the atmosphere for this to happen, it's going to be a while, right? But if you remove just the word holistic society and use yourself as an individual, what can you do to ensure that the mental health and physical health and all that for other humans is improving? So, for example, if you are a member of a mentor organization, if you're a member of a local church or what have you, be that one that is willing to stand up to make a change. And see, I'm okay with being a radical. I'm okay with, walking to my pastor or walking to an organization that I'm a part of and say, okay, listen, COVID-19 is here. People already had a lot of stress in the situation. What are we going to do to address these people, to address mental health? Because people are coming here broken and they're leaving broken. We give them 5 minutes of fame, 5 minutes of happiness, but they go back to that brokenness. We need to be a change agent. Be a change agent wherever you stand. And I challenge people to do that. Be a change agent, and don't worry about people saying you're doing too much. You're not doing too much until you go to the grave, because that's when you're supposed to be done. Harriet Tubman, people picking me all the time, say, Jason, you doing this, you doing that. I say, well, Walmart doesn't. You go to Walmart, you can get everything. Harriet Tubman will help free the slaves. She worked with the Civil War. She was all those things, because again, as humans, we have hands. Hands are for picking up things. Your feet are for walking. So it's like we're a total person, and we should be the change agent in those situations.
Yeah, I love that. I believe that. And I believe that I always say, like, we're called to the one, because when you think about how overwhelming it can feel to try to reach so many different people, right? But if you just focus on one person at a time, then the others follow too. But it's not as overwhelming, especially for that person that's really trying to figure out their footing, really trying to figure out how they can help. And like you were saying, be sort of a voice or to help someone along. Just focus on the one. And then as a result of that, being amazing or great or what have you, servant for the one. And then everything else will kind of fall in line, and it makes it less intimidating. So Andrea, is Andrea or Andrea? Andrea. You can pronounce that in so many ways. All relationships are affected by trauma. When you don't know and haven't gotten the help you need, something will be said or done in response to whatever triggers you. That was in our, and when we were talking about relationships and
Mm-hmm.
trauma. And then she also said mental health should be an annual preventative checkup, just as you go get a physical, eye exam, and dental. And you said that, Jason, you guys are
Mm-hmm.
definitely in synergy with one another. I agree with that. And it's something that I think people run from. It's an embarrassment for some
Mm-hmm.
reason. It has been, but I do love the fact that more people are beginning to talk
Mm-hmm.
about things, especially men, and
Mm-hmm.
beginning to be open to exploring that and realizing, okay, there is some sort of a need here that I need to feel. I don't know what it is, so let me go speak with someone
Right.
to help me to feel that. Now, you were talking about mindset a moment ago, and I want to talk about, because you were talking about what's up here and how it
Mm-hmm.
affects everything else. I want to talk
Mm-hmm.
about mindset for a moment. And when you're working with people, when it comes to trauma, overcoming, getting through, what have you, how much are you pouring that mindset development, personal development in those workshops and trainings and one-on-one?
Gotcha. And so my mindset is really important. And the interesting thing, Kim, about the mindset, when there's a workshop, I don't do any I do individual coaching on like business and
Mm-hmm.
life coaching, but I don't do individual
Yeah.
trauma coaching. I do more so
Mm-hmm.
trauma training, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
but but the what I do with the mindset piece is, before we can even get to the mindset, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, right? So like when I do workshops, and the workshops that I do on trauma, they're not just there is a one and done called the 101, which is a
Mm-hmm.
one and done. But if you want to continue the process of going through the rest of the trauma training, so it builds on each other. But that mindset is so important. And what I do when I do a trauma workshop, and I hope this answers the question, when I do
Mm-hmm.
a trauma workshop, I do something called leveling the playing field. And what happens is, when you come into a workshop, let's think about this. When you come into a workshop and the facilitator's there, and the facilitator gets up and say, let's introduce ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're in this workshop, and again, and somebody may say, well, my name is Dr. Such and such. My name is, Miss Such and Such, or Bishops. So we have all these titles, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I do a trauma workshop, I call it leveling the playing field. Everybody in this training, you have a name. Your name is Kimberly. My name is Jason. Okay. And so what happens is, we level the playing field. We come in at everybody's on the same level,
Yeah.
because we're here to talk about trauma and how it has impacted. And the reason I say leveling the playing field is because that lets everybody know that we all equal here. It's a safe place. We don't do titles at all. I remember I did one for a workshop for a church a while back, and so it was really interesting. It was virtual. It was really interesting because we had, like, there were bishops. I mean, it was like all these great names. We got
Yeah.
apostle, bishop. We got all that, right?
Yes.
So when I did the training, people introduced themselves, and they were saying their names and all that. I was like, great. I said, but here's what I need for you all to do. I said, I need for you all to take off your title, and I need you to reintroduce yourself and just tell me your name.
Mm-hmm.
Because all that other stuff is great, is important, and is gifting. But right now we're in a place where we're leveling the playing field, because again, I can't get to your mindset, and I can't get to you receiving something, because you have a lot of stuff that is, you're how can I describe it? Okay, a prime
Like
example.
blocking. Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily blocking. It's so let's say we have a person, and they are I'll just even use myself for example. So I'm a trauma coach, whatever, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so if I introduce myself as that, right, sometimes I can't receive what is being taught, because my mindset is, this is who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I have this title, I have this. And so when you erase the title, everybody's now on the same level. We're all there to learn and grow together. And I do put
Right.
the handles, if it's an older person, Mr., Miss, or what have
Yeah.
you, that's out of respect. But when you come into a workshop and you have a title, we throw all that out, because right now we're leveling the playing field, because
Yeah.
we can't truly learn, because, and I'll use the word blocking, because we're coming in there with this title, versus
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming in here as a student that may have experienced trauma, to learn how to shift my mindset. So before I even get to mindset, we got to first level the playing field. Then we get to some different type of activities that we do to let us know that we all can learn something. And
Yeah.
so leveling the playing field also makes other people feel comfortable, because sometimes, and this is not about self-esteem, because sometimes if you have one person in the room and they're not a doctor, or they're not have these titles, that person may sometimes feel less than, and
Yeah.
then they can't receive what's being taught because they feel that they don't amount to the other people in the room. And that's not about self-esteem, what have you, but that's just about, when you introduce yourselves and you have all these different titles. But let's level the playing field.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you, Christina.
I think what it is the when you walk in a title, sometimes you have an expectation of yourself that you lose the ability to be coachable or honeable, because it's almost like, well, because this is my title, I should know. And so I can't
Right.
let them know that I don't know this or what have you. So I think the title, it's right. Oh, Carrie says it exactly how I want to say it. The titles can impede what we can receive.
Tell Carrie I'm gonna steal that, because I'm gonna use that now when I'm leveling the playing field. So
yeah.
Thanks, Carrie. Don't copyright that by noon, okay?
I'm sure she's fine with it, but that's exactly what I was saying. Like it can hinder us from really truly receiving, because, and I think everybody in life has done this at one point or another, where it could be with your kids, it could be with your students if you're a teacher, it could be, with your ministry at church, you teach Sunday school or whatever it is in life, right? It could be with a friend, a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, a wife, whatever, where you didn't really know, and it is a teachable moment, but because of your title or position or where you feel like you should stand, you don't receive it, and it ends up hindering you. And then one day you're like, oh wow, they did. I do get that now. I get that now, but it's a process. It's back to processes. You see her hearts and face.
Right.
Looks like she's okay with you taking that. So yeah, I love that. Like, it's such an opportunity to level the playing field when you just throw out the titles. It makes everybody comfortable. And I've been in the room where I've been like, okay, it's a bunch of doctors and lawyers in here. I had to do a lot of personal development in order to be a speaker and go out and, be an empowerment speaker and all of that stuff, because you standing in front of a room and people are listening to you, and you're who, like, it's almost like, well, I got to have all of these titles behind me for this doctor or this lawyer or this engineer or whoever to listen to me. No, I have something to offer as me, Kimberly, and Jason as well. So yeah, so that's such a powerful statement. And I want to talk about, so this show, Friends Accountability Network, acronym FAN. FAN is an acronym for that. And so I love to talk about accountability a lot in your network. Whenever you have people that can help you to be accountable to your goals. I think about your friend who was in the movie, who called you. You guys were in Messenger. You got basically built out this whole next elevation of your life that you didn't plan, because of a friend, because of your network, because of collaboration and accountability. So how important is that to you and your business, especially being a motivational speaker, author, trauma, just everything in your life? How important is that to you?
So accountability is extremely important. But if I can go even back before accountability, I'm going to call it your support network, and your concrete support in times of need, and also your support network. It is so important that you have individuals in your circle and in your sphere of influence that you are accountable to. And that will, not only praise you, but correct you, and you're willing to receive that correction. I call it my intimate circle. I have those individuals that I know that I can go to, and I can say, hey, what do you think about this? And they're going to give me their honest opinion. And the thing is, it doesn't even hurt my feelings, because I know it's coming from a good place. And so that's where that accountability piece comes in, that you're not just accountable to yourself, but you're accountable to those people that believe in you. And so it's so important to have those connections that gives you that accountability, and who's in your circle that is holding you accountable for the greatness that is within you. So
Yeah.
everyone has something great within you, but who are you accountable to ensure that that greatness is coming out and is coming out right? It was so funny because I'm at my parents' house in South Carolina. I came to spend, my birthday with them. And I was
Yeah.
like, in South Carolina, the country, they want a picture on every single wall, right? So I was trying to find a
Yeah.
location to see where I can do my backdrop, right? And so, because I just jumped on the road and, didn't take anything with me. But I already know that I have a really good friend that, that gives me feedback anytime I do a live. I already know that they're going to say to Jason, bruh, what was going on with your backdrop? So I already know that I have to be accountable to that person. But guess what? I appreciate it because it's coming from a good place, because they want to see me do well and I want to see them do well as well. So it's important to know who is in your accountability circle, because
Yes.
everybody does not belong in that circle. And you have to know who's supposed to be in that circle for you to be accountable to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that you said that you have that person that is going to critique you in love.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the thing, you that makes you want to help you walk in
Mm-hmm.
excellence, in a level of
Mm-hmm.
excellence. It's that reminder, like sometimes when you're rushing or walking out the door, it's that reminder, like, oh, I know Kimberly is going to be watching, or whatever your friend's
Mm-hmm.
name is. I know that they're going to be watching. They're going to say something. So that helps you, triggers you to go back and grab whatever it is that
Right.
you were supposed to grab, But
Mm-hmm.
then it also, I think one of the things moving as we maneuver through life, it also helps us to realize our value to a certain degree. Like, because when you start to be around people that you're gleaning from through association, and vice versa is reciprocal, then you
Mm-hmm.
just naturally begin to kind of step your game up. And
Mm-hmm.
so I love accountability. I believe that accountability also is healing.
Mm-hmm.
Just assuming accountability for a situation, even right or wrong, is not the issue. It's just saying,
Mm-hmm.
how could have been better, or responded better, or just whatever in that situation. How
Mm-hmm.
could I have pushed myself better, or what have you? So
Mm-hmm.
accountability is big for me, especially in collaboration. That's the last thing
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about with you, and then get your social media information, all that stuff to share.
Mm-hmm.
Accountability is big for me in collaboration, because of the fact that you have to show up in order to fulfill the piece of the puzzle that you're supposed to play. And then ultimately, I believe that collaboration leads to us being able to exponentially grow in our
Mm-hmm.
lives, our businesses, grow our finances. And no longer are we waiting 10, 15, 20 years to have our millions, or I'm just going to put that in air quotes, to have our successes,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say. And
Right.
so, because of collaboration, that mindset. So let's speak to collaboration really quickly as we wrap up. What is something that you can share from your experiences in your life, where collaboration really played a big role?
I'll just say, I'll just say my whole life.
Mhm.
Everything from, from birth all the way to where I'm in now, collaboration is extremely important. I liken the word collaboration to a making a salad, making a regular tall salad. Is that if I'm a tomato,
Mhm.
I'm a tomato. I'm a tomato. If I'm a
Mhm.
tomato, I'm a tomato. And then if you're a cucumber, you're a cucumber. And so forth and so on. So we all have our own expertise. And if we don't collaborate, you're just gonna sit there and be that vegetable by itself, right?
Mhm.
But collaboration is so important, because when you, as a cucumber, connects to that tomato, and the tomato connects to the lettuce, and all of that, and so now you put it all together, and now you have this really good salad that looks
Mhm.
good, it tastes good, and it's healthy. And now it's being fulfilling and healthy for other people, because the tomato cannot do the work by itself. And so when everybody collaborates and work together, then we have something that looks good, tastes good, feel good, and is good for the people, right? And
Yes.
so collaboration to me is so important, because I can only operate in my best if I'm connected to somebody else that's operating in their best as well. And
Yes.
so, and sometimes you may not want the whole tall salad. Sometimes you may just want, you remember back in the day, we would do the cucumbers, the tomato, and the red onions. But guess what? We're operating
Vinegar.
the vinegar, absolute salt and pepper. So we're
Yes.
operating in that. So we're collaborating so that our best forth can come, because when you all together, that person's going to taste that cucumber, but it's going to even taste better because you know that what happens, that vinegar done seeped into it, and then it's a mix. So the collaboration is so important, because we cannot truly be our best if we're not connected to somebody else that is doing their best as well. But I want to say this, in collaboration, be careful that the tomato is a tomato. Be careful that the cucumber is a cucumber and not a sour pickle. You got to be careful, because what happens is, here's what happened. People will show up and collaborate, and they will look just like that cucumber, and then they will get into the salad with you, and they done mess up the whole salad, because now they bringing some vinegar into the salad, and the egg on the salad is good too, but we got to make sure that it's not a pickled egg that's going to be in the salad. It is an egg. It is an egg. Right. But it's not the right kind of egg. So, and I can say, Jason T. Mahoney, in my life, I have unfortunately sometimes made some mistakes and connected with the wrong people that were not true accountabilities, were not true collaborators. And then what happens, sometimes I had to press restart. But I'll say, in this season of Jason T. Mahoney's life, we're not doing that anymore. And again, that's what you call it was traumatic to connect with the wrong type of ingredients, but I learned and I'm able to move forward. That's where resilience come in collaboration. But it's so important in collaboration, because we cannot live in this world and not collaborate with people. I believe in introverts and I believe in extroverts, but you still need people, because you can't do this by yourself. You just can't.
Absolutely. The ingredients each have essential nutrients that are needed and work in tandem with one another. Exactly. And that's the thing. I love what you just said about the pickle versus the cucumber, because they look the same. And when you begin to identify, and that's the thing, when you know yourself and then you have experiences, and that's the thing that people have to understand. We do have to give ourselves grace, because we will have experiences, but those experiences should equate to lessons. And so now we can identify that there's a difference in the look somewhat of the pickle and the cucumber. There's a difference in the look of that seasoned marinated meat or what have you, or let's stick with the salad, cucumber versus the one that's just, straight cut. So we began to identify, and that's significance in collaboration, identifying who we are, being okay with where we are and who we are, and authentic to ourselves so we can show up effectively. And then also finding people that we identify are the people that we need. They're walking in their beauty, their grace, their cucumbership.
Exactly.
So thank you for joining us. Can you share with everyone your social media information, and I'll put it up so that they can reach out to you?
Absolutely. My Facebook page is Jason T. Mahoney. My Instagram page is JTM The Motivator. My LinkedIn is Jason T. Mahoney. And my Twitter is Jason T. Mahoney. And really, if you really just Google Jason T. Mahoney, those platforms will pop up. At least one of them, and then you'll be able to connect to the other one.
Love it. Just Google the man. And you'll find him. So I want to share once again, he is an author of several books. He is a motivational speaker. He is an awesome new movie director, producer, all of that. And because he's a motivational speaker, I would love for him to close us out with something to take throughout the rest of our week and our day.
Gotcha. So I would encourage and tell you all is don't forget to love yourself, because if you do not love you, you're not fulfilling your heart's desire. Love yourself. Love yourself. It's okay. It's not arrogant. It's not conceited. It is just loving who you are unapologetically. The things that you think are flaws are actually perfections, because that's why you have them. but love yourself and do not allow what somebody else say to you, do to you, to cause you to devalue yourself. You're valuable, you're lovable, you're important, you're good, and you are equal. Love you.
Awesome. We love it. Carrie said that's so good. And Andrea said, thank y'all. Great information while having my morning cup of coffee. Love it. So Jason's information is there. Go to Amazon and put Jason T. Mahoney in the search and go and get some of his books, especially Tried in the Fire. Just follow him so you can see when those other tour dates will happen and all of the good stuff that's coming along. If you're interested in a training, trauma training or anything, also reach out to him. We're going to be doing one at some point with Beauty 180, which is the cup that I'm holding today. I'm shouting out my nonprofit, Beauty 180. As you all know, if you're an entrepreneur and you would like for me to shout out your business, for those who don't know, potentially, then just send me a mug. If you like that information, just send me a mug. We have a campaign called the Mug Campaign, and I'll shout out your business as my morning cup of joe, with my morning cup of joe. We believe that coffee is figurative for building relationships, sitting across the table, having a conversation, building relationships. Some people don't like coffee, so you don't have to have the coffee, but it definitely signifies something significant. So Coffee and Collaborations Media is all about the significance of building relationships and growing our networks, growing our awareness, growing our businesses and our lives to be amazing in the community so that we in our own personal communities can begin to build them and grow them and leave a new face of legacy, especially for the African American community, but for so many communities that are lacking. Right. And so I want to thank you for joining us today on the Ultimate F.A.N podcast under Coffee and Collaborations. If you guys want any information on anything we have coming up, just follow us at coffeeandcollaborations.com. Follow us on all social media at Coffee and Collaborations, on YouTube at Coffee and Collaborations Media. If you'd like to be a sponsor of any of our shows, same thing. Just reach out. You all have an amazing day. Thank you for joining us. We will see you next time, next Monday, 8 a.m. on Coffee and Collaborations. See you on Friday for Thank God It's Fashion Friday. And we have Love and Flow TV, where you can go and talk to the ladies and chat and have some fun conversations. Stacey Haywood said, great job, Jason. Happy 40th. Jason, enjoy the rest of your birthday. Happy birthday. We'll see you guys. Bye-bye.
Cool deal. Thanks. Take care.